ever had a day where everything feels personal? A delayed reply feels personal. A different tone feels personal. A cancelled plan feels personal. And before you knew it, you're carrying an emotional weight that seems far bigger than what actually happened. Hello, and welcome back to From the Therapy Room, Psychology of Mind and Body, Understanding How We Think, Feel, Pattern, and Become. I'm your host, Jyoti, a clinical counseling psychotherapist. I'm really glad you're here. You're welcome to follow this space and stay connected. This is a space where we gently explore the inner landscape of human mind, where psychology meets lived experiences, and where the story we carry inside finally find language. In this podcast, we explore psychology behind everyday emotional experiences, the things we often struggle to understand within ourselves. Let's come back to our today's topic conversation. Have you ever had one of those days someone sends a short text, a friend forgets to call, your partner responds with a slightly different tone, a colleague ignores your suggestion, you misplace your keys, you spill tea on your shirt, and suddenly it feels like the world is collapsing. You know intellectually that these are small things. You know that if the same thing happened on another day, you probably won't care much. Yet today it hurts. It irritates you. It overwhelms you. You find yourself crying over something that doesn't seem worthy of tears, or feeling angry in ways that don't make sense, or withdrawing from people because of something tiny, and then another voice appears, the critical voice, the voice that says, why I'm so sensitive? Why can't I handle things better? What's wrong with me? If this sounds familiar, then stay with me because today we are going to explore a question that many people secretly carry. Why do small things affect me so much on some days? Or maybe something like that, that why does everything feels personal on some day? And perhaps the answer is not that you are weak. Perhaps the answer is that small things or the way we are taking things was never the whole story. Maybe someone didn't mean anything by it. Maybe they were tired. Maybe they were distracted. Maybe they were having a difficult day themselves, and yet somehow it feels personal. The look feels personal. The silence feels personal. The cancelled plan feels personal. The delayed reply feels personal. The criticism feels personal. Even the things that logically have nothing to do with you somehow feels connected to you. And if you have ever wondered why I'm taking everything so personally today, I want you to know something. The answer is rarely in the other person's behavior. The answer is usually hidden somewhere inside your relationship with yourself. One of the most damaging words people use against themselves is I'm overreacting. Maybe, but let's look deeper. Psychologically speaking, reaction doesn't happen in vacuum. Human beings are not machines responding only to the present moment. We are emotional archives. Every experience leaves traces. Every disappointment leaves echoes. Every rejection leaves fingerprint. Every unmet needs leaves a memory. So when something happens today, you are not responding only to today, you're responding with all the emotional history you can. The present moment presses against old ones. And suddenly the emotional volume becomes much louder than the event itself. The spilled coffee isn't about coffee. The forgotten text isn't about texting. The criticism isn't about criticism. Something older has been touched. Something deeper has been awakened, and your nervous system responds accordingly. Maybe you have experienced this. I wonder if you have ever felt this. Does this sound familiar to you? You're making tea in the kitchen. Someone in the house says something completely ordinary. Okay, that's all they say. Nothing wrong, nothing hostile, just okay. But somehow your body reacts. You replay their tone. You wonder if they are upset. You start mentally reviewing yesterday's conversation. Did I say something wrong? Are they angry? Have I disappointed them? Now you notice something. Can you can you think of a recent example like I'm sharing? Okay, was only 1 second long, but your mind turned it into a 20-minute emotional experience. And this is where psychology becomes fascinating because the suffering isn't coming from the word, it's coming from the meaning your unconscious mind attached to the word. The nervous system doesn't react to facts, it reacts to interpretations. And most of these interpretations were learned long before today. Imagine for a moment that every difficult experience you have ever had is placed inside an invisible backpack. A heartbreak, a betrayal, a disappointment, loneliness, failure, feeling unseen, feeling not good enough, feeling abandoned. The backpack gets heavier and heavier. Most days you carry it well. You go to work, you smile, you function, you seem fine. But some days you're already exhausted. You're stressed, you're not sleeping well, you're emotionally depleted. And then one more thing gets added, a tiny thing, a seemingly insignificant thing, and suddenly the backpack breaks. People look at the last item and think, why she's upset about that? But they never saw the 100 pounds already being carried. Our nervous system knows a lot. Many people think emotions come from thoughts, but often emotions come from the body first. Your nervous system is constantly scanning for danger, not only physical danger, emotional danger, relational danger, psychological danger, and the nervous system asks, am I safe? Am I loved? Am I accepted? Do I belong? Will I be abandoned? Will I be rejected? And when we are tired, stressed, lonely, grieving, or overwhelmed, the nervous system becomes more sensitive. That normally feel manageable suddenly feel threatening. It's not weakness, it's biology. Your emotional skin become thinner and everything touches you more deeply. Let's go deeper and try to see still living inside the adult. I'm taking a different perspective here because psychodynamic psychology teaches us something profound. Part of us never truly leaves childhood. The adult grows, the child remains. Not physically, emotionally. Inside every grown adult lives younger version of themselves. The child who felt invisible, the child who was criticized, the child who had to earn love, child who learned not to be needy, the child who learned to stay quiet, the child who felt different. And most of the time, these younger parts stay hidden, but certain situations wake them up. Someone ignores your message, and suddenly you are not 35 anymore. Part of you feels 7. Someone sounds disappointed in you, and suddenly you are not in today's conversation. You are back in childhood trying to earn approval. The reaction feels bigger because multiple timelines have collided. Today has touched yesterday. And sometimes I ask clients a simple question: How old, how old do you feel right now? How old are you? How old do you feel? And often they pause because suddenly they realize something. The reaction they are having today doesn't feel 35 years old. It feels 12 or 9 or perhaps 6. A partner forgets something important. An adult part understands. People forget things. But another part quietly whispers, I don't matter. And that voice is usually much older than the relationship. So psychodynamic therapy teaches us the old emotional experiences don't disappear, they become templates, and later in life we unknowingly place current experience into these old templates, and the present become the colored by the past without even realizing it. I want to explore something that many people experience but rarely talk about openly. Some people don't just feel rejected in one relationship, they feel rejected kind of everywhere. Not necessarily because people are rejecting them, but because rejection has been the lens through which they experience the world. Maybe you have noticed this in yourself. Does this sound familiar to you? A friend takes longer than usual to reply, and something inside immediately whispers, they don't want to talk to me. Your partner seems distracted at dinner, they're losing interest. A colleague doesn't smile at you in the hallway, and you think they must be upset with me. Someone leaves you your message on read, and you think I've done something wrong. A social media post receive less engagement than usual, and you'll start thinking people don't care what I have to say. Now just pause for a moment. Notice how quickly the mind creates a story, and notice something even more important. In all of these situations, there are countless possible explanations. Maybe the friends was busy, maybe the partner had a stressful day, maybe the colleagues was preoccupied, maybe the person forgot to respond, maybe the social media algorithm simply didn't show the post to many people, or it could be anything. There are a number of explanation, I mean, but somehow the mind consistently arrive at the same conclusion. It's about me. It's personal. And this is where really psychology becomes incredibly interesting, because often we are seeing what we are seeing is not reality. We are seeing a pattern that began long before today's situation. Psychodynamic therapists sometimes talk about unconscious expectations. Without realizing it, we carry assumption about how relationship works. Assumption forms in childhood. If love felt inconsistent, we may unconsciously expect inconsistency. If attention are unpredictable, we may unconsciously expect people to disappear. If approval had to be earned, we may unconsciously expect disappointment. Over time, these expectations become so automatic that we stop seeing them. We don't realize we are wearing a lens. We think we are seeing reality exactly as it is. But what we are actually seeing is reality mixed with memory, the present mixed with past. Imagine a child growing up in an environment where Emotional connection felt uncertain. Sometimes people were available, sometimes they weren't. Sometimes they were warm, sometimes they were distant. The child learns something, not consciously, emotionally. The child learns. People leave, people lose interest, people are unpredictable, and years later, that child becomes an adult. But the expectation remains. Now, every delayed text feels significant. Every shift in tones feels significant. Every moment of distance feels significant. Because the nervous system is not asking what is happening right now, it's asking, is that old thing happening again? And here is the painful part. The more afraid we are of rejection, the more likely we are to see rejection where it may not actually exist. The mind starts collecting evidence like a detective trying to prove a theory. See, they didn't reply. See, they seemed distant. See, they didn't invite me. See, they didn't notice me. And gradually, a narrative forms. Nobody really wants me. Uh, People always leave. I'm not important. I'm too much. I'm not enough. The tragedy is that these narratives often feel like facts, but they are usually old emotional conclusion searching for confirmation. The adult thinks they are reacting to today's event, but often a younger part is reacting to years of accumulated experiences. And if this resonates with you, I want to offer a gentle possibility. What if not everything is about you? Not in a dismissive way, in a freeing way. What if the colleague's mood is about their stress? What if the delayed text is about their schedule? What if the distracted look is about their exhaustion? What if people's behavior is often more about their inner world than it is about your world? Because one of the most healing realization in life is this: not everything rejection, not everything is abandonment, not everything is a sign that you have done something wrong. Sometimes people are simply human, just like you, carrying invisible struggle that have absolutely nothing to do with you, and learning that distinction can feel like taking a heavy burden off your shoulders, because suddenly you no longer have to make yourself the center of every negative possibility. You can begin to ask a different question. Instead of why this is happening to me, you can ask what else might be true. And sometimes that single question create enough space for healing to begin. Let's take another perspective. Attachment theories teaches us that our earliest relationships become templates for us. Templates for love, templates for trust, templates for closeness, templates for conflict. If love felt unpredictable growing up, uncertainty feels dangerous now. If affection was inconsistent, distance feels threatening now. If criticism was frequent, feedback feels devastating now. If emotional needs were dismissed, vulnerability feels unsafe now. This means a simple event can awaken an ancient fear. The fear isn't conscious, it appears as they don't care. They're upset with me, I have done something wrong, or I'm going to lose them. And suddenly your emotional reaction feels disproportionate because you're not reacting to the event, you're reacting to the meaning attached to the event. Have you ever noticed that some days you can laugh things off and other days the exact same thing feels devastating? Same comment, same situation, same person, different reaction. Why? Because what changes isn't always the situation, it's your emotional bandwidth. It's the amount of stress your system is already carrying. It's whether your inner world already feels secure or fragile. When we feel emotionally resourced, life feels less personal. When we feel emotionally depleted, everything feels personal. One of the most powerful idea in therapy is this, like that people don't react to reality, they react to interpretations. The event is neutral. The story creates the suffering. Someone doesn't reply, a story somehow came into her mind. They don't value me. A friend cancels plans. The story is coming in her mind. I'm not that important. A partner seems distracted. The story is coming. I'm losing them. A coworker doesn't smile and the story comes into your mind. They dislike me. These stories happens automatically. Most people never notice them. The emotional reaction arrives before awareness does. And because the story feels true, the feeling feels justified. Let make this very ordinary. You send a message. The person usually replies within 10 minutes. Today it's been 3 hours. Nothing has happened. No evidence, no problem, no crisis. Yet your mind starts creating. Maybe they're upset. Maybe I've said something wrong. Maybe they're pulling away. Maybe they don't care anymore. Now, from the outside, it seems irrational, but from the inside, it feels completely real. Because what is activated is not today's delay, it's yesterday's uncertainty. It's every moment in your life when connection felt unpredictable. The adult knows they are probably busy. The attachment system isn't so sure. And when attachment wounds wake up, logic often loses the first round. Psychodynamically, one of the most fascinating things human beings do is this: we often assume other people are thinking about us what we secretly fear about ourselves. Really? Hear it again. We often assume other people are thinking about us what we secretly fear about ourselves because it changes everything. If deep down I worry that I'm not good enough, I will often experience neutral situations as criticism. If deep down I fear rejection, I will often experience distance as abandonment. If deep down I fear being a burden, I will often experience boundaries as evidence that people don't care. Sometimes what feels personal isn't actually coming from the other person, it's coming from an old belief looking for information. Our mind really hates uncertainty. Something like this: why haven't they replied? Why did they sound different? Why didn't they invite me? Why did they look upset? And the mind rushes to fill the gap. And what does it fill the gap with? Usually old fears. Carl Jung believed, a famous psychologist, that parts of ourselves get pushed into the unconscious: needs, fears, longing, anger, vulnerability, sensitivity. These rejected aspects become what he called shadow. The shadow doesn't disappear, it waits. And often the smallest even activated. A small criticism may awaken years of hidden shame. A small rejection may awaken hidden loneliness. A small disappointment may awaken grief you have never processed. So the event becomes a doorway. The unconscious suddenly appear, which is why your reaction feels larger than expected. The psyche is saying there is something here that is still need attention. And Jung would probably say that the moments that disturb us the most are often revealing something we have disowned. For example, imagine someone ignores your suggestion in a meeting and suddenly you're furious, much more furious than the situation deserves. Now, the question is what exactly got hurt? Maybe it wasn't the suggestion, maybe it was a hidden need to feel respected, a need you have spent years pretending you don't have, or perhaps you have always told yourself, I don't need validation. Yet the intensity of your reaction suggests otherwise. The shadow often appears when our reactions are disproportionate because the psyche is trying to show us something we have been refusing to acknowledge, not to shame us but to make us whole. And Jung believed that what bothers us in others often reveals unfinished business within ourselves. Think about the people who trigger you most: selfish person, arrogant person, the dismissive person, the needy person, the critical person. Now ask yourself, which part of me gets activated when I meet this person? Because often the trigger is not only about them, the trigger is revealing a forgotten piece of yourself, a wound, a fear, a disowned quality, or a need we have never fully accepted. I wonder if you have ever felt like this. And some other times, what we call sensitivity is actually exhaustion. And exhausted people personalize more because the mind has fewer resources available. Everything requires effort. Everything feels heavier. Everything feels closer to the skin. Everything it's little like having a sunburn. Normally a touch feels fine, but when the skin is injured, even gentle contact hurts. Some days your emotional world has a sunburn. Have you noticed that sometimes the thing that finally makes you cry is almost ridiculous? You hold yourself together through work stress, family stress, health concern, financial pressure, responsibilities, deadlines, emotional exhaustion, and then one day a grocery bag tears, or someone cut in front of you in traffic, or your favorite mug breaks and suddenly tears arrive. People think you are crying about the mug. You're not. The mug simply becomes the place where everything else finally landed. Sometimes the issue isn't childhood, sometimes it's accumulation. Life has been asking too much of you. You have been strong for too long, giving too much, holding too much, managing too much, suppressing too much. The only tiny things happen, you cry. Not because of the things, but because the dam finally breaks. Many tears are not about the present, they are delayed tears, accumulated tears, stored tears, tears that finally found permission. Many of us think emotions vanish because we ignore them, but emotions are not deleted, they are postponed. Like grief never grieved, anger never expressed, hurt never acknowledged, and loneliness never spoken. Seemingly small events can become the doorway through which years of unfelt emotions emerge. The day is never just a day. This is a very psychodynamic idea. Many people think they are reacting to today's event, but often they are reaching to today's stress, yesterday's argument, last month's disappointment, childhood wounds, future fears, all at the same time. Notice that some days you wake up already feeling vulnerable. Nothing terrible has happened, yet everything feels heavier. The email feels heavier, the silence feels heavier, the criticism feels heavier, the uncertainty feels heavier. It's because the day is never just the day. Every moment arrives carrying the weight of other moments. There is also a deeper question hidden underneath all of this. Why do human beings suffer so much from seemingly small moments? Perhaps because we are creature of meanings. The human heart is never simply reacting to events, it's reacting to what those events seems to say about our existence. Do I matter? Am I lovable? Do I belong? Am I enough? Will I be abandoned? Will I be forgotten? Many everyday hurts become painful because they accidentally touch these ancient human questions. And those questions are much bigger than the event itself. Many spiritual traditions teach that sensitivity is not a flaw. Sensitivity is openness. Sensitivity is receptivity. Sensitivity is the capacity to feel life deeply. The problem is not sensitivity. The problem is carrying sensitivity without support, without boundaries, without self compassion, without understanding. Many people spend years trying to become less sensitive. Perhaps the real task is becoming less ashamed of sensitivity because sensitivity itself is not the enemy. Unawareness is, self judgment is, emotional abandonment is. Something to yourself when a small thing starts hurting you. Ask yourself gently, what else is happening in my life right now? What am I carrying? What I'm not acknowledging? What does this remind me of? How old do I feel emotionally in this moment? What fear has been activated? What story am I telling myself? What need is underneath this reaction? These questions transform reaction into self understanding. They'll be very helpful to you. The person you are taking personally is yourself. I think sometimes we think another person's behavior hurt us. But if we are honest, the deepest wound came from what we said to ourselves afterward. For example, people doesn't reply. It's painful. But then comes, I'm not important. I'm annoying. I'm too much. No one really wants me. Now the suffering doubles. Many times the greatest source of pain is not the event, is the self abandonment after the event. Again, you are not broken. Really, you are not broken. One of the hardest truths to accept is that sometimes we are not reacting to what is happening. We are reacting to what we are expecting. And expectations are often built from history. If we grew up expecting criticism, you start looking for criticism. If you grew up expecting rejection, you start looking for rejection. If you grew up expecting disappointment, you start preparing for disappointment. And eventually, the mind becomes so skilled at protecting itself that it begins seeing danger even none exists. Not because you are irrational, because somewhere inside you, protection becomes a survival strategy. Perhaps the most important thing I would like to leave with you is this, that you're not broken because small things affect you. You're human, you are layered, complex, historical, emotional, relational, and you're carrying years of experiences inside a nervous system that remembers more than your conscious mind does. So the goal is not to stop feeling, the goal is to understand what your feelings are trying to tell you. Every strong emotional reaction contains information, a message, a want, a need, a longing, a memory. When we become curious and instead of critical, those reactions become guides than the enemies. I mean, maybe nothing is wrong with you. Maybe you have spent years trying to become less sensitive, less emotional, less affected, less vulnerable, less needy, less human. And maybe the real invitation isn't becoming less, maybe it's understanding more. Understanding why certain things touch you, understanding what your reactions are protecting, understanding what your emotions are trying to say, then because healing doesn't happen when we stop feeling. Healing happens when we stop fighting what we feel. Just think, what if your sensitivity is not evidence that something is wrong with you? What if it is evidence that something inside you is asking to be heard? The anxious reaction, the tears, the hurt, the disappointment, the loneliness. Maybe these aren't sign of weaknesses. Maybe they are messages. Messages from parts of you that have been carrying burden quietly for years. And perhaps healing begins not when we stop feeling, but when we finally start listening. So the next time somehow you find yourself upset by something is small or you're taking things personally, before you call yourself dramatic, before you tell yourself to get over it, before you criticize your sensitivity, pause. Place a hand on your heart and ask, what part of me is hurting right now? Because often the small things isn't the problem. The small things is simply the knock on the door. And behind the door is a part of you waiting to be seen, waiting to be understood, waiting to be welcomed home. Sometimes the smallest moments reveal the deepest truth about the human heart. The next time everything feels personal. So instead of asking immediately, what's wrong with me? Try asking, what is my nervous system trying to protect me right now? Because beneath every intense reaction, there is usually a fear. And beneath that fear, there is usually a wound. And beneath that wound, there is usually a need for safety, a need for love, a need for belonging, a need for reassurance, a need to matter. The reaction is not the whole story, it's simply the surface of a much deeper conversation happening inside you. So the next time everything feels hurt, the next time a look hurts, a silence hurts, a comment hurts, a disappointment hurts, pause. Don't ask what's wrong with me, ask what inside me needs kindness right now. Because something, the deepest feeling doesn't come from fixing yourself, it comes from finally understanding yourself. This has been from the therapy room, Psychology of Mind and Body. If this resonates with you, you can share what you felt or noticed. I would love to hear your reflections. And if you find these conversation meaningful, please share this episode with someone who might quietly need it. Because so many people live inside this pattern silently. And if you enjoy psychologically deep therapy room style conversation around healing, relationship, trauma, anxiety, attachment, and emotional well being, follow the podcast on YouTube and Spotify, and I'll meet you in the next conversation. Take gentle care until the next time. Take care of your mind, your body, and the quiet spaces within you. See you. I'll be sitting next besides to you. Take care.